Hi, my name is Ahu Surder. I'm the host of and founder of Spark Labs and ARIA Women Investment Platform. If you're wondering what this space is about, this is an innovation lab to design a better version of the future. Of course, gender diversity is a big part of it. And in everything we do a lot of technology-related work here, mobility, life sciences, sustainability. We both incubate, accelerate, invest, co-invest in startup ideas and people. But I think a big plus of what we're doing here is, again, like I said, gender diversity. And we pay a lot of attention that everything we do is reflected in also everything we do, including our language. So we always say we put female language into the business world. And sometimes I would like to say that here we help new babies to be born. We help other people to have new babies. And then we help companies, their families, adopt new babies. So investing in startups, incubating startups, and accelerating them. And we are very comfortable, both men and women, think harder, right, with this language here. And everybody chooses their own title in Spark Labs. So I'm very proud to say that my title in Spark Labs is Mother of All Things. We women are very proud mothers. I would like to be a proud mother in everything I do. That's why I carry this title with a lot of pride. So today we have some guests from all different parts of corporate world. Today our host and actually the sponsor of today's event is AT Kearney, and Idil will represent them. So without further ado, she's also a great friend and female advocate. So I'd like to invite her to the stage, and all welcome.
Thank you. You know, there was a warning for the, weather. All of these, things you have been here together with us. It's very valuable for us. I want to start by, celebrating ourselves. We are in the midst of, dramatic change, lots of things happening around the world. And we are experiencing times where we need peace and, understanding each other more and more. We need empathy. And beyond gender issues, we should know how to be a good human being, right individuals. So I think let's celebrate each other, all of our economic growth, all the success we did until now as women, as well men. So I think it's a good opportunity for it too. At Kearney, we are globally running an IWD event. London, Istanbul, our offices in Dubai, be broadcasting together. And our core aim for today is raising awareness, but I think we're one step ahead of raising awareness. We have to set the KPIs for all of us, for an equal business environment, inclusive business environment, and beyond the establishments, an equal opportunity in life for each and everyone. So I will keep my words here short because, we have very distinguished guests here today. They'll be supporting us with their, great inputs and, ideas. We'll be enhancing the ecosystem that we are, working in. I'd like to thank you all for being here today, and I'd like to invite the platform of each bank to give great ideas and great initiatives that they are running. Thank you.
Thank you, Idil and Ahu. I'm sorry that I'm not comfortable in English like you. I'd like to thank you, Kearney and Aya, for hosting us here, firstly. And I want to talk about each bank's gender perspective a little bit. And I won't take your time much. So, I know that you're waiting for the panels and the announcements. I don't know. It's a great pleasure for me to be here representing each bank. Because I really feel happy and lucky being a part of each bank that really cares about gender equality and a pioneer in this area. I would like to tell you briefly about each bank's gender perspective, as I said before, and we have 12,000 women employees, and that means 55% of our employees, and that's why we are one of the companies that have the highest ratio in our country. And then we look at the management level, we see that this ratio is about 45%. And we reinforce this our approach with being a signatory to UN Women's. Sorry that I can't go on. Can't go on. I'm very exhausted. No, thank you. Wow. We have reinforced our gender equality approach, being a signatory in young women's empowerment principles. While this is the situation within the bank, this is the best part I know because I was in the studies. Let's look at our relationship with our customers. We were in our projects that we had first. It was our first project in financing the women-led SMEs by EBRD fund. Consultant made an assessment for us, and the result was we're a really gender-neutral company, and we serve men and women equally without discrimination. But then came the aha moment, and we understood that the thing we already know, that being equal does not need justice all the time. So from then on, we are working to empower women and strengthen the weak sides, the disadvantaged side first, to ensure equality. As I said before, we are working on empowering the women against biases and boundaries. In 2016, our journey began. Our new, I'm not good. Can I go?
Oh, we know that you did with that all along.
Yeah, I'm not good at English, so yeah. No. No, sorry.
Wait.
Okay.
Let's not leave the stage because, yes, maybe English is hard.
Yeah.
Our journey was harder together with you. So, yes, I really would like to celebrate because there is nothing more important than women celebrating and supporting other women. And that's what, with the leadership of Deniz and İşbank, that has happened to us in our journey as ARIA. So from the beginning on, when I started, I was a social entrepreneur. I'm a known entrepreneur in other areas. Nobody knew me as a social entrepreneur. And I thought I had this great ideas, and I pitched it to many people that I thought valued my work. And they said, yeah, it's good, but you cannot make anything for a woman. Women don't support other women.
Mm.
So I was rejected many times. I'm used to it as other entrepreneurs rejected me to their deals. I'm used to that, but somebody saw the opportunity, and actually, İşbank saw the opportunity in ARIA, and through her eyes, you have been with us. We started as a small enterprise, and then today we are at a place where we are going to celebrate our own gender-balanced fund. So, and thank you. This could not have been possible without your support.
Thank you.
I really value it.
Thank you. I feel so proud. So welcome first of all, welcome all. Today we will cover some master as a woman as investors and corporates who are supporting women in the workforce and in investment. So I want really good questions from the house to they're going to help us to that. So I want to give a quick intro from all of you. I think this is really cool.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank Arya as well as Kearney for inviting us at this important day to discuss a very important issue. Actually, I've been with İş Group since 2000. I started at İş Private Equity, and I moved to Maxis in September 2021. We are mainly focusing not only private equity, but as well as venture capital and infrastructure. And our topic is today to introduce to you guys our new tool, which we will have in the second chapter.
My name is Alice Server. I'm the founder of ARIA, Women Investment Platform. I started my career in investment management as an investor, but then I found out I think by nature I'm an entrepreneur. Nowadays I'm mixing the two. I also have some corporate hats where I have to manage corporations. But what I like to do with my life is to be entrepreneurs and investors of great initiatives like Mina's.
Hi everyone, I'm Mina. I'm co-founder and CEO of Upschool. To be honest, I was like 8 years old when I think about the upskilling projects of women actually, and today it's happening with Upschool. Upschool is an edtech company, and our purpose is to empower women, female role models in tech. And right now we offer female-only career-focused training programs to place women in tech roles, and I'm lucky to be here today.
Perfect. So, Winston, that's a question. So, I'm founder and managing partner of Scalex Ventures, a stage venture firm investing in tech and region dominant global markets. So far, I define myself as an entrepreneur, basketball player, and having a daughter. Actually, before having a daughter, I took verbal medicines. After being a mom, I feel like 9 months. But I thought I wish I knew those things. I could learn fast enough to become a mom and really need it. So I think today that's why it's really important for me too. So I will not join my questions. So if you ask an engineer investor woman, well, our topic is beyond numbers. I want to talk about some numbers first. I'm going to start with you. Could you open the conversation with some numbers at your room workplace?
I think it doesn't work right now. I can't. Okay. Is it working? Okay. Actually, right now, women hold 10% in tech roles in Turkey, and it's 30% in worldwide. So we have lots of things to do. But in all employment rates right now, again, women hold 28% of employment, and it is, it's unbelievable. And even though, women work more than men when we think about paid and unpaid work, women earn less and they have less hour for education or leisure or self-care. So in overall, we are not in a good state right now in terms of numbers.
I'm an optimist, so yeah. So, your school, you are working to change it. So you are upskilling women to create more value in the workforce. Can you maybe more explain why in those topics?
Yeah, sure. For example, we have lots of interviews with young women, freshly graduated university grads, and we see that they don't believe themselves. They don't believe that they can find a job, they can learn coding, they can become a developer. And for most of them, STEM is very much related to men's world. So in the core sense, we should change the mindsets of them. So Upschool, that's why focuses on empowering female role models in tech, because we believe that role models will change the world, and they don't have the competence gap. Women don't have the competence gap. Rather than that, actually, they have the confidence gap. They have to increase their confidence. They have to see more developers in tech roles. And that's why we actually try to increase the number of female talents in tech positions. And the most important problem, I think, is confidence problem.
Okay. So I actually want to go to you, Ahu, somehow, with connecting to Mina's answer. You and I, we always look for the next wave because we know where that's where the value get created. So can you maybe explain us how you look at women in workforce, and you are also investing in women, and why you are doing that?
Actually, that's why I think we call ourselves also entrepreneurs in a way, because entrepreneurs usually look for a problem to solve. So, and then we are investors. We first look for the problems to solve, then we start investing in them. So my problem statement, and I'm also very happy to say that we just closed an investment round on Upschool, a $250,000 investment. Yes. Why? Because many years ago, I met the founder of Girls Who Code about 10 years ago in an international conference. And only one sentence, I mean, she was very impressive, but one sentence, problem sentence stuck with me. So she said, today, and she was talking about US in general, 50% of the jobs are shared between men and women, although women are paid much less. But she said, in about 10 years, I think it was 10 years, only 3% of the jobs, because as technology is advancing, the participation of women will decrease to 3%. So this was the problem statement. And I said, if I ever see a concept that is properly addressing in, closing this gap for anybody, I will invest in that business. And the way they approached to the problem was very systematic and like a technological product. So it's not just one woman at a time, but many women at a time. And then it's scalable as we look in a VC world. And that's what we liked about the business. And I didn't think twice because I already had the problem in our, the problems that we need to solve with. So this was one of them. And then I took the opportunity and then we invested.
So, and you are investing in all the women's and also helping women to become investors. Maybe you can give us more story
My
there.
personal journey also started with two problems. Again, I always start with the problems. So I'm a mother of three girls. So daughters make a lot of difference. I think for fathers also, they change.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because we are always occupied. Of course, every parent is occupied of what kind of a world they're going to leave to their kids. But when you're the parents of daughters, you're a bit more concerned, and regardless of you're a mom or a dad. So, and in my 40s, I said, okay, what's next for me in my career, and what problems can I solve that I can contribute with my skill set, and also it's good for the world. So when you're an investment professional, of course, KPI is ROI, return on investment, but then you start looking for other returns in life too, as a human being, as Idil said. And then I chose two problems. One was women, and then I found my own way of contributing with the investment platform. And the second was, what if I solve the traffic problem? Because you know how they say you should have a moonshot. And then investing in mobility was my way of contributing to the solution of this problem. And now I lead two venture firms. One is the ARIA Women Investment and F Plus Ventures.
Definitely looked really high potential places for sure.
Most I could contribute. Maybe it's not the most, the problem that gets you the most return, but in my own sense, it was satisfactory.
So I want to bring it to here actually, because your journey started almost like a year ago. We can say now you are launching something together. Can you maybe give us more details about the new fund and what you want to achieve with that?
Sure.
Our journey started many years ago.
It took a long time.
Under the umbrella of Maxis, we are able to raise several funds at the same time with different teams. Our first fund was established in 2018 as a VC fund, which was funded wholly by the bank. So it's almost funded by İşbank, not even the group companies. Right after that, we have set up a clean energy fund, which we closed a transaction with Adnan Polat last year in November. Right after that, in April 2021, we have set up a growth equity fund. Those three funds were fully funded by the group. But with the studies at İş Group, when I was working in İş Group, we also started to invest into women as well. For example, Aras Cargo was a family-owned business, but the CEO was Evrim Aras, who was a woman. Our current investment in Trendyol, the ex-CEO Demet was also ex-CEO, and the co-founder. And our investment in sports retailer in Sportive is also Zeynep, whom she is with us for the past 7.5 years. Statistics in private equity is showing that gender-balanced funds as well as women-oriented businesses actually are outperforming more non-gender oriented funds as well as non-gender oriented portfolio companies. So this was a very actually interesting statistics that we have found out. Right after that, we have seen also DFIs pushing for this as well as United Nations. So we have been discussing with Hanım several times of raising this fund, but we were not able to do this under the umbrella of İş Private Equity because it was a captive fund, a publicly listed fund, and it was owned wholly also by the bank. But at this current environment and with this current establishment under the capital market boards, we are able to raise now several teams. So we are in the midst of raising an impact investment fund, as well as now with Arya raising a, let's say, gender balanced fund. Women's fund. I'm learning these.
We are doing genderless investing.
So I have so many questions there. How big is going to be the fund, and where do you want to invest?
Yes. Well, let me first also add a few words to Murat. We've been working with İşbank since the beginning of Arya, so many years. And İşbank's approach to entrepreneurs, also from the foundation of the bank,
Yeah,
it was built
definitely.
for Turkish businesses and Turkish entrepreneurs. And I was very happy to see at every level of the bank, this spirit was very alive. So whatever you wanted to do, there is an opportunity. And that's why actually we go way back with the automotive deals. Because it's the first place when you have a good business idea, you go and check it out. So it was very good alliance, but building a fund is not that easy. And we've been discussing many years, and you know how.
Yeah, I know. It's a hard job.
I have my own reservations, of I worked in the finance industry, then I made my own capital, and then I was kind of opposite to getting other people's money. And when you're building, as an entrepreneur, when you're building a product, and it's a technology product, what do they tell you? First, build your network, then build your product, and then bring the two together. So what we have done with Arya for the past almost eight years, so we built a network of great women, not only to invest in, also to become investors. Because gender lens investing is not only investing in women or gender balanced teams, but you also need to have women on the other side of the table. You need to have female VCs who are sitting in the decision boards. You need to have female high net worth individuals who are in control of their money or who want to start learning about it. It doesn't matter which level they are. But if you have some kind of a net worth as a female, you need to know how to manage your money. And half of the, that was another statistics that got me going. Half of the capital in the world is owned by women, but it's not managed by themselves. It's managed by other men. Also, this was a problem statement for me to put in our aim. Well, when we start fundraising, we know that a lot of Arya women will be investing in this fund themselves. Be it a first-time entrepreneur or a corporation owner, it doesn't matter, but they will be. I'm also happy to say that I just secured Hande Schillinger's commitment to our She's a very successful entrepreneur who just really celebrate her success with her co-founders. They're 6 people, and she's the CEO of the company and the only female founder. Unicorn also, they reached.
Yeah, they just became, actually, we maybe need to mention a really important point. In Turkey, the first unicorn is Demet with Trendyol. which is now women, and it's like 16 billion plus valuation. But also, Hande is really unique in the B2B SaaS place. She's one of the first women CEOs in a startup. So
Yes. So, but it's also important to get these people invest back into other women. So this is very important. What how Hande supports us in that way. So all these problems, and then hence our fund. Now, where do we want to be? Of course, we want to be successful VCs, right? So whatever KPI is considered successful for a VC, I think we're not going to be less than.
what is that success?
What is that success?
Can you tell us?
Well, statistics gender-focused funds are outperforming the non-gender funds by 20%. So, of course, as a VC fund, joking aside, of course, this fund will be, first of all, a $10 million fund, and it will be the first gender-focused fund in Turkey. As far as I know, the first gender fund was established in France in 2005. As of 2019, there are 168 funds, as far as I know, in gender. I just studied that before I came. Worth of $4.8 billion. So it's a small one, but I think it's a very good place to start with. And our goal is, of course, in dollar terms, to have an IRR, net IRR of 15% or more. That's our goal. And probably we are discussing on, of course, Arya will be managing the funds. Of that 10 million, probably half of it will be financed by our group. So we will chip in half of the money. At least we will match whatever Arya will raise on a one to $1. And we hope to at least have $10 million, and they will be managing it, finding the deals, closing the transaction, managing those and exiting. And hopefully we will be helpful on that side as well due to our experiences. We will share our mutual know-how and have a successful. It's very critical to be successful. I mean,
Yeah.
it is good to have.
It will be successful, for sure.
And we see the potential, definitely, and we really believe Arya's know-how.
So maybe bringing something different. When I invest, I don't invest only focused on gender balanced startups. I look for entrepreneurs in Turkey or Eastern Europe and want to help them to learn. So I think here at Arya, you have been building an amazing learning journey and a community around those people. And as Nina said, you were bringing role models into the community so people can learn faster, grow faster. I think that's going to help a lot. So then, what they share the success? What is going to be success for you with this fund?
I think I see Arya as an ecosystem builder, and fund is a part of that too. So we are now a network of women, 300 women. We're an angel network, an accredited angel network. So we have, I think the minimum ticket size for our fund will be around $25,000. So anybody who cannot afford that ticket size will be able to co-invest with us in the angel network side. We will be able to co-invest with other VC funds and the others. So building that network with angels, then we have the fund, we have the entrepreneurs, diversified entrepreneurs with us, but we also cooperate with other VCs. We are leading a campaign called Beyond the Billion. Actually, we are a partner of an international campaign where we go to the VCs and ask them, would you like to commit a certain percentage of your investments this year to gender balanced teams? And surprisingly, a lot of many VCs have decided to invest in us, and they signed their pledge. They say, for example, if they're investing $10 million that year, they say, okay, I'm going to commit to invest in gender balanced teams. They don't have to share that with us, but it creates a criterion in their minds to support that initiative. So we see that as a 360 model. And of course, fund's success will be incremental because if we say, we tell investor women, okay, you're going to support women, but support them with your money. So put your money where your mouth is. Say that one part. And then we say that gender balanced teams are more successful. Okay, then they should show it to us. And then we have a facilitator among all that, making sure that this initiative doesn't fail. like Mina, for example, we're discussing, she says, how many classes have you run? How many entrepreneurs did you work on? How many entrepreneurs did you start?
150.
Okay, so I said, okay, how can we make it 10,000?
Yeah, it's happening like this. True story.
Exponential. So this will be our role, and then to introduce her to the right companies to help her. Second, I think that's our role. And I hope.
Yeah, maybe
Thank you also for supporting us because it comes with a lot of experience, with a lot of credibility to be with them, you know, and it's a capital markets accredited fund. Women are very risk averse investors. So having İş Bankası with us is like an insurance policy.
See, I want to add a really tiny story there. When I was starting Scalex, it wasn't a fund yet. Actually, İş Bankası helped me to get it going. I was organizing and bringing Harvard professors. And for me, it's like the biggest, in Turkish we say can suyu, life water, how to say. So it was really unique. I think those kind of stuff really helps, like that boost, and having a respected corporate behind you is really important. So you were going to say something.
I would like to tell in our executive program, our team once told us Arya is like an open buffet, so it is definitely up to you. How can you benefit from us, etc. So I want to mention that it is a great ecosystem, and as a part of it, we really have that the support of women, actually also men. We also promote that. So as a women entrepreneur, I highly value this kind of ecosystem, and it provides great opportunity to scale 10x. Also, actually, it's a good support when you feel like burnout or when you feel like when you deal about like founder stuff. So I'm lucky about that.
And when you feel that you are not alone, I think that
Yeah, definitely.
I think being an entrepreneur is like a tested knowledge. It's like cycling. You can't explain someone how to cycle. Like, are you gonna say hold up the cycle and like 25 degrees to the right, and you have to push 45 kilometers per hour? So it's really hard. But if you put that person on the cycle and help them fail and come back, try and stand by them. Not feeling alone is really unique in such an ecosystem. So let's take some questions. Where's Myron? We can get prep for it, but I'll keep going till Myron comes. So with this one, I want to touch on controversial. So as an investor, we talked about the success. So how do you see the opportunity? I know we talked about it. It's undervalued. We have a high potential with that ecosystem around it. How do you explain this to LPs? How do you make them to believe in this? Not to make it just a gender balanced fund. So I think it should be the most successful fund overall and beat the statistics. How do you think about that? And I will come here. I know is more ready for this question.
You know, there's this book called It's Not What You Say, It's What They Hear.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to make people hear what they want to know. So when we're saying the first investors will be females, so, and they will be our first LPs, and it's a great opportunity that İş Bankası will match whatever we collect. All of these females that be investing in our fund or are in ARIA network, they know how to be, they have one point in their lives, they have experienced where they were the opportunity and they were not taken. They were many times, not even once. So they know how it feels. And I believe that they will invest for that so that another opportunity is not passed again. That's my point to my LPs, because I feel that way. I mean, and I've been very lucky. And I know that it doesn't matter if you're a successful entrepreneur, whether you're female or male, it doesn't really matter. And I know that some of the female earlier in Arya stages, some of the female entrepreneurs, good ones, technology entrepreneurs, were not choosing to come to Arya because oh, it's a women initiative and I'm already good. I can go to GBA and other places. That's fine. Of course, they can go. And Arya will stand wherever they want them to stand by their side, either on the most important role or on the supporting role. It doesn't really matter. But I think it was very important that there is an entity that instills into women what women can do for each other and showing it with numbers, not just saying it. So that's my pitch. Because I'm putting my own money into it. I believe in it. And I believe that many people are ready to believe in it. Of course, we have to show the results. But it's not only Ahu's or Murat's responsibility. It's a whole network of people that needs to prove that. Because if we are not, then all these things that we've been talking about will be, in vain.
So I want to take the conversation to entrepreneurship a little bit and talk about where the trend is going, or where we see the buckets of value going to be created. So we said we are touching for the next waves. I mean, in my world, autonomy, automating everything, robotics, AI, blockchain, Web 3.0, everything is like flying over. It's one of the best time to be an entrepreneur, because we always talk about there are so many opportunities out there at the time of regulation when there's new technology and consumer or adoption changes, which have been happening for the last 2 years. So I believe in next 10 years are going to be amazing opportunity for entrepreneurs. So from where you are standing on your side, maybe in the workforce, in the investment, or as a LP or a fund manager, where do you see the opportunities for the future, or maybe next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I'm not that experienced like you guys because I have more the muscle on the private equity side. So on the VC side, but what I see is that in Turkey especially, you have all these huge industries, let's say tourism, in construction, in healthcare. There is a huge transformation, not only in Turkey, but globally as well. So we are seeing a lot of opportunities on that side of whether you call it digitalization or whether using technology and introducing a new product. We are seeing a lot of opportunities on those sides. And I believe that given the fact that there is a certain know-how in the country, we have to use that know-how on top of that, and we have to put the technology on top of that and move forward. That's how I see. Of course, there are lots of transactions happening in Turkey in gaming side, as you know, in e-commerce, but also we have these industries here as well in automotive sector. Definitely, technology will be a key driver on that side as well. So we should look into those opportunities and go for it. AI, as far as I know, as I am not as expertise like you, of course, AI is critical, but are we at that level? I don't know. When I look at as an investor, most of the technology opportunities that we see at Maxis is usually copycats. It's like all these youngsters are coming, look, I have this new technology, globally the competition is this, but my futures are much better. We don't have much original technology being developed, which is okay, because China went through the same phases. I think first we will move with this idea and then go towards more original technology. I don't see it. Probably you see it much more because you invest into deep tech. In deep tech, probably you will be seeing much more opportunities than what we are seeing. And with our collaboration with Arya, I think we will also, besides as an LP, we will gain a lot of know-how, I believe.
So I just want to add a small note there. So like 5 years ago, if we look at the top 5 firms in Turkey, you would see the holding companies and banks, telcos. Today, you see tech companies. In US, it's the same case. There's a huge disruption and change for sure. So Ahu, I want to come to you because you are also coming from automotive industry, which has been really deep roots. It's also getting disrupted. So how do you see it?
how do you take a legacy business and make it new again? That's I think the dilemma that a lot of the corporations are facing, and I've been also a part of it. Um, I read the book Dual Transformation, and it was about how you take a corporate enterprise and make it a more new enterprise. I'm coming to realize that it's not that easy, and not everybody wants to do it. Everybody talks about it, but again, they don't find their greatest, they don't put their greatest resources onto it, even though it's going to bring them the most return. Because people feel more comfortable in making returns in areas where they know how to play, and they are afraid of going into areas where they don't know how to play. Therefore, what do? You need to recruit yourselves some different players who are gonna, and I kind of categorize it in two ways: the R&D of the things that we know, and the R&D of the things that we don't know. So you need to create two different sections. This is what we are doing in FARC Labs. And working with different entrepreneurs, I think learning and fast learning is the most important asset.
And unlearning.
And unlearn, forgetting what you already know, so it doesn't stuck with your head.
And being okay to fail
Yes.
on the road, but
None of
being
it is acceptable in Turkey.
winning at the end. I think those are really hard things about the culture.
It is, and it is very painful. So I think the road is to play with the right people, the new games, to give them the lead, not insist on playing the lead part in every game, to go along and be a part of their learning journey, and to mutually benefit from it. So with AI, for example, we are also doing a program again with SoftTech Turkey, where we jointly look at different startups, and maybe those startups will not be good enough for, or I mean, proper for each of us, but we will find the right company maybe to support that startup. I call it collaborative intelligence. That's very important. And the second, now after having seen that dual transformation is really hard to reach, I introduced a different concept. It's an investment portfolio approach to innovation. So you have to play in every place, and it's fun to discover the future with the right people.
Yeah, actually, I have passion with ecosystems, and Shishejam should take and go find this story. There is a big story, which I read in a book I should share. It's talking about some glass blowers in Istanbul moved to Venice around 200s, and they became the best glass blowers in Europe. But at the end of the day, because you are blowing the glass at really high degrees, there were so many fires. At that time, the leader of, I don't remember the name, he said, like, let's put all these in Murano Island. And in Murano Island, all those Turkish glass blowers, so much competition, and all the employees are like moving around in between the teams. I say teams, and they are getting married. It created the biggest innovation in glass history, which created the mirror, individualism, and then fiber optics all came out of that era. So for me, I think creating this environment, learning, competition, and competition is really important. So I want to ask you, Mina. So we talked about the opportunities we see here, but from your eyes in the workforce, where do you see the opportunity for the future? So we can tell this to young people, what to study, where to focus on.
In Upschool, we always design training programs based on employment opportunities. These are RPA developers, front-end developers, Android developers, this kind of stuff. Of course, I mean, blockchain developers also coming, but right now, most of the companies in Turkey and also global are looking for this kind of developers. I believe that companies focus on recruitment and retention of women in workforce. And this might lead many things like closing gender pay gap. Right now, women earn 60% of men's wage. I mean, this is something else. And also, I believe that remote work is an important concept here because when we launched Upschool in March 2020, it was like the beginning of pandemic. And of course, we always thought that we should have an online platform, online training programs. But pandemic made it much easier and flexible. And also right now there are different students from different cities in Turkey in up school, and once they are hired by companies, they are working with in a remote work environment. And it is very critical when we think about social and economical development of women in all around our country and also in the world. So, for example, one of our grads, the first woman hired from a tech company. For example, she was living in Adana. She still is, and she graduated from RPA program, and she became an RPA developer in just 3 months. And she's working from there to Istanbul. I mean, it is a great opportunity for women and also for our country. I mean, they spend the money in that city. It is also contributing SMEs, of course.
And she was working as a storekeeper in Adana.
Yeah, exactly.
Take care of coding engineer.
Amazing.
Employed in this time. That's a great thing.
Mhm.
So before I go to Q&A, which we have so many questions for you today, but before that, I want to ask you my last question, Mina. So as an entrepreneur, how we can help you? Like, I know this is gonna be a tough journey. It's like they say, it's like a roller coaster, up and down. So if we know how to help maybe an entrepreneur, we will bring it to you.
I mean, the first thing on my mind actually is it's good that having someone to ask help. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I asked you something about our business. So, I mean, our Honorable replied me in 10 minutes.
We
Something.
WhatsApp I'm doing this.
And actually we should all consider that founders don't know everything. I mean, and shouldn't know everything. I mean, this is a part of the job. It's a teamwork. So it's a teamwork in including the startup, but also we should also include investors, third parties. It's a big thing in terms of that. So I mean, Arhan also mentioned support, but I will also say that asking for help and ensuring that I will get that support from them, it's such a huge flow for me.
Yeah.
Go to 10,000. However, you can help us.
And anchoring.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. So I'll have my questions really quickly. So what type of criteria do you follow in your investments? Maybe we can start here.
Every fund has a different criteria. The VC fund that we currently have is investing into seed as well as Series A, between seed and Series A. In the clean tech, we are looking for certain, we are not investing into greenfield and brownfield. It has to be operational. In growth equity fund, we are looking into 250 million lira revenue as well as 40 million liras of EBITDA. In this one, again, it will be close to, I assume, to our VC funds as far as I know.
So then
Every fund has its own team because it depends on your fund size and on how many investments you want to make, and then the tickets that you want to invest, whether you want to be minority or majority, and then you strategize and look into the valuation of these companies and what stage you want to invest. So it's a reverse engineering at the end of the day. How much you are raising, and according to that, how you will invest.
So can I ask more on the Maxis side? You said seed to Series A, what it means, how much do you invest, and what do you look for maybe?
Well, on the VC side, it's between 250,000 to and $1 million. But of course, we are also considering on investing on the second, third round phases as well. So
Follow-on.
yes, on follow-ons. On the other ones, it is like I
Yeah.
said, yes,
Oh.
they are bigger companies.
Bigger. Ahu?
Maybe I can add one more. Of course, obviously we have gender lens investing, but there is also the new area called femtech, female technologies. That's a big market.
Huge.
I mean, and it's pretty much ignored because we're using unisex products and everything, but females have different needs. So there's a technology emerging, and then we would like to be also active in those areas. All other things, we are sector agnostic. well, we just look at the balanced teams, also technologies or companies that can be scalable, and also with the follow-on rounds. The basics are always the same for each fund.
Okay.
Where you-
Maybe the ticket sizes you already mentioned, but 25K.
That's the commitment.
Commitment.
But our ticket size will be 200,
250.
250.
Okay.
Yeah. But then maybe if you would like to ask me who can invest, how you can help us.
Yes, I can ask that question.
Who can invest in ARIA? I think who is ARIA beneficial for? A lot of the corporations, for example, they can also commit to their ESG goals by investing in ARIA.
Mhm.
Not only the individual LPs, of course, females for sure, father of daughters, a few good men like them. But then I think it's also an important tool for corporations to involve their own people into this initiative.
We also have CVC, for example, corporate venture.
Yes,
Mhm.
corporate ventures. Other VC funds can also invest in ARIA. But we want you as an LP. When you look at it, I think there is the carrying the ARIA badge will be maybe a way of setting a KPI for gender balancing, I hope. And that's how they can help us.
Amazing. So before we close, I want to close with positive notes at the end. So we all want to create impact and we all want to create successful companies. So what is your last wishes? We can go around the table. So many money. That's a good wish for an LP for sure.
On top of it.
On the top. Maybe,
I mean, we believe human rights are human rights or the worst. And the important thing is that, I mean, even you said that ARIA founders should include KPIs in terms of impact. And our job is definitely easier in obstacle because we put impact first, the KPIs, how many women we reach, how many employment, I mean, how many companies they hire, etc. And it is important to show it in a solid way rather than just verbally. So, for example, today is March 8th and lots of companies having some declarations about women's rights. And I value that, but I think everyone should be part of it in our daily lives. To be honest, Melike and I are very lucky to do that in our daily operations. But I believe that companies and also individuals should contribute women empowerment. And my last wish for this panel is that.
Amazing. So I want to thank you to AT Kearney. It all started in London. Now we are in Istanbul, but it will turn around all around the world. So we know we have numbers to be improved, but at the end of the day, everybody here wants to make it positive. So I want to thank you all my panelists and İdil actually at the end of our time. Thank you.
Çalışmak. O yüzden mikrofonu Mara Hanım'a bırakacağım. Süre dikkatinizi rica ediyorum sahneye.
Sıkılmazsanız bir şeyler anlatacağım. Annem anlatırdı. Küçükken böyle bir 2 yaşındayken falan toprağa bırakırmış beni. Toprağa böyle mıncıklarmışım, bir şeyler yaparmışım. Yani toprakla aşkım çok küçükten başladı. Sonrasında hep çamurla seramik yaptım. Ta ki çanak, çömlek, tabak yaptım. Ancak sonra bir spiritüel yolculuğum başladı. Spiritüel yolculukta başladığımda çamurla olan aşk içindeki duyguları da yansıtarak başka bir şeylere evrilmeye başladı. Bu da bir Mevlana seyahatimde, bir Şebi Aruz seyahatimde orada bir şeyler oldu kabrinde, Mevlana'nın kabrinde. Orada bir kararlar aldım. Çocuklarla çalışmak, her ne diyorsam, işte seramikle, çamurla tekrar bir araya gelmek. O zamana kadar biraz da takı tasarımı yapıyordum. Çamur'la tekrar buluştuğumda üstüne de sanat terapi eğitimleri aldığımda o süreç bambaşka bir hale dönüştü. Ve çamurun nasıl bir şifa ile buluştuğunu ve dönüştürücü gücüne çok şahit oldum. Yüzlerce çocukla çalıştım. Çocuk, büyük, her yaştan ve her kesimden insanla çalıştım. Darla Cizre'den bir sürü çocuklarım oldu. Onların hemen sunumunu yaparken iç dünyalarına şahit oldum. Çamuru yoğurdukça aslında bütün bunlar yani burada ne varsa çamura geçiyor ya ellerle. Çamuru da farklılaştırdıkça, yoğurdukça ve değiştirdikçe aslında hayatın da değiştiğini biraz şahit oldum. Sonra süreç içerisinde bu yüzlerce insanla çalıştıktan sonra annem rahatsızlandı ve bu sefer çamur şifasını benim üzerimde, terapisini daha doğrusu kullanmaya başladı ve bir küçük ağaç başladı annem vefat ettikten sonra. Ve bir sene o ağaçla çalıştım ve sonra onun anısına bir duvarda yerini buldu. Ardından daha doğrusu ondan önce demiştim ki hastanelerde olduk çok uzun süre. Allah'ım demiştim ne olur şu beyaz duvarları daha ümitli bir hale getirebilir misiniz hastane duvarlarını? İşte hastanelerden aramaya başladılar. Duyuldum galiba yukarıdan. Ve hastanelerde duvar panoları yapmaya başladım. Biraz bakan her göze şifa olması dileğiyle. Çamurun hakikaten dönüştürücü gücüne inanıyorum, şahidim. O yüzden topraklarımızda çamur çok kıymetli. İnsan eli, yüreği çok kıymetli. Çok güzel ustalar var. Özellikle o Avanos tarafında, Kapadokya tarafında. Fakat yeni jenerasyon el tutmuyor. Maalesef başka yerlere gidiyorlar ve bizim güzel ustalarımız da devam edemiyor. Belki demin konuşulan hani kadınlarımıza daha çok bu çamurla olan aşkı öğretebiliriz. Daha çok genç kızımız belki çamurla veya seramikle heykeller, bir sürü şeyler yapabilir. Orada ya da ne bileyim çirkin yerlerimizi, işte metro duvarlarımızı çok büyük güzel insanları bir araya getirerek güzelleştirebiliriz. Hep böyle fikirler var inşallah yapabileceğimiz. Dönüştürücü güç. Yani çamur dönüştürücü güç. Ya, sağ ol.
Hayatınızda bazı insanların hikayeleri vardır. Karşılaştığınızda kendinizden çok şey bulursunuz, çok şey öğrenirsiniz. O yüzden ben Mara Hanım'ın YouTube'da böyle kısa bir videosu var. Lütfen izleyin. Hani o keşif yolculuğunu o kadar güzel anlatmış ki. Hani hepimizin içinde bir sürü farklı kimlik var. Bir dışarıdaki kapsayıcılığı konuşuyoruz ama önce kendi içimizde kapsayıcı olmayı da öğrenmemiz gerekiyor. İçimizdeki her bireyle barışmayı da öğrenmemiz gerekiyor. Bence bununla başlıyor bu hikaye. O yüzden ben Mara Hanım'ın yolculuğunu çok kıymetli buluyorum. Çok teşekkür ederim bizimle de paylaştığınız için Mara Hanımcığım.
Hi, everybody. For our second session, my name is Aslı Pırıl-Türkmen. I'm the Managing Director of Endeavor Turkey. I'm joined here by my esteemed panel from all over the world. İdil Özdoğan, who is of course our host today. Pleasure. Welcome. Banu, who is a managing director, Banu Kusakrek, who's a managing director at Goldman Sachs, and Pelin Akın, a board member at Akfen Holding. Today will be with us. We'll manage this to the best of our capabilities given the technological situation, and we'll see where the connections lead us. But our session today, so the first session was quite forceful in terms of investments and what the environment needs, the ecosystem in Turkey needs. And of course, we had the wonderful announcement by İşbank and Arya. Now we're going to be a little more philosophical, I guess. We will talk about the identities that women take on in the workplace and what that means for us and for our future. I think together, I know between the two of us, we have 3 daughters. I don't know, what do you have, Banu? Do you have,
I'm matching you alone. I have 3 as well.
what did she say?
You have
3 myself.
3 by myself, I think.
And Kearney also is a mom, so we're going to talk about our identities at work, outside of work, and what this means for us and how the changing world is shaping us as women. And of course, again, I'm joined here by women some of whom were educated abroad, who live abroad, all of whom work in multinational companies. So I actually want to start with the cultural aspect. So Edith, let's start with you.
Sure.
So you born and grew up in Turkey, from Ankara, actually, and now
Are you a nationalist for Ankara?
all Ankara people are, that's fine. And now you work at a big multinational corporation, and you have for most of your career. How do you feel the cultural differences are in the way that the women are perceived in the workplace between different geographies where you work, not even between Turkey and other places? I think we can cast a wider net because I think all of us work in many different geographies. So how do you think culture plays a role?
Yeah, thank you, Aslı. Thank you for being here. Before, answering your questions, I really have some difficulty, how our relations with, each and every woman here. Sometimes, business led it and, we turned into friends, and sometimes we were friends and we couldn't, stay silent and turned it into business. So that, it's great to be here with all of my friends and valuable, partners. Thank you again to Banu.
She's my upstairs neighbor. So we can
Also, we noticed that we were neighbors in Bodrum as well at times, so we are lifetime neighbors. Okay, so culture that really differs from region to region, but I think the intent to learn from different cultures is crucial. We live serendipity with different cultures, with different people, during the whole day, and how we perceive the understanding, how we put yourself into their position, how we show empathy from culture to culture. I think there's nothing just focused on gender, no sole gender bias in that sense. But I typically see that people who were brought up with working moms, it's, I think, something a step beyond the culture, are more, I think, positive about creating, right environment for, balanced gender representation. I don't think that it's something, based on regions, but, working moms, leading by being, leading by example, being right role models, first scenario, so that you can have anyone in Africa, in Middle East, in Europe, who was a child of a working mom, and seeing all of these, all the learnings by example, it changed the situation in your daily routine, I think. So knowing the game is the issue.
Great. Banu, let's turn to you.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, a little bit patchy, but yes.
Okay, I'll start shouting and tell me if I'm too loud. First of all, apologies for not being there in person. I had to be in London last minute. And look, I think I actually have a slightly different view of culture. I had the chance of kind of working with people in Japan, Saudi Arabia. I used to cover kind of Middle East, so I actually had to spend a lot of time there, obviously Turkey, but also US and kind of across Europe. And in my view, I mean, obviously we all have stereotypes in terms of how different kind of countries respect or not respect women, but what that actually experience is like people define culture, right? And it's not so much about which country you're from, but it's more about kind of how you, it's more defined by your kind of social norms, how you act, and your education, upbringing, etc.
So, and I think in my experience that has also changed over time. I mean, when I kind of look at like 20 years ago when I first started working, and people's kind of, we wouldn't have this conversation, right? And now, I mean, not just in Goldman, but in many other places, how you know, attitudes towards women and having some of these conversations that have kind of changed remarkably. People actually recognize the value of diversity, and that wasn't the case, I would say, a long time ago. And it's changing, and I think you'll touch upon that in later on, with a lot of kind of the social trends that we're seeing, work-life imbalances, like just some of the kind of the values in the societies are changing, and we're seeing kind of the impact on that in terms of kind of attitudes towards women.
Thank you. When it was 2011, I was pregnant with my first daughter. So Endeavor people like to tell a lot of stories. So there will be lots of stories. I was in the US for an Endeavor event, and there was a VC, a very well-known VC, a man. He saw me, he was pregnant, that I was pregnant. He was like, oh, what are you having? I said, I'm having a girl. And he said, and he meant this with every single molecule of his being. He said, what a glorious time to bring a daughter into this world. I'm like, really? He said, every day is better than the last. Believe me in this. And I think what Banu is saying, what Idil is saying is we have to recognize every step that's been taken with our movement, wherever we may be. We're all part of this movement. Pelin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. And can you?
Yes. So what do you think about how the cultural differences shape the views that people have towards women in the workplace?
Yeah, I think Banu has touched upon a very good point in the sense that people do define culture very differently. So when you look at our culture, Turkish culture, actually the woman is very much respected. And from our traditional point of view, the woman has been given lots of responsibility, not only at home, but also outside of home. However, the interpretation afterwards and the habits that have developed slightly presented a different scenario. So it's not the culture that really determines, but it is how we interpret and how we then imply it to our lives that really matters. Because sometimes we take different examples from different cultures and try to embed them into our lives, and it just doesn't fit in right, just because you don't really embrace it as such. And in Turkey, I think we see this a lot. Culturally, the way women are treated is very respected and strong. However, today, the scenario we're facing is very much different. So it is not culture, but it is definitely how we interpret, and it's a lifestyle that is more important, I believe.
Thank you.
Maybe also can be defined, sorry for interrupting, erosion of culture too. That's, we had some core values, but, by time we have been losing these too.
Absolutely.
So to go back to the idea of identity, all of us here have, and of course, as we grow, we add more identities to ourselves. So, 15 years ago, I wasn't a wife. Now I'm a wife, and now I'm a mother, and now I'm a daughter of potentially soon aging parents. And we have different roles at NGOs. Some of us, I know Banu is an active investor. So all of these are identities. And I want to talk a little bit about how our identities overlap. And our founder, Linda Rottenberg, she's a mighty, mighty woman. Again, the same trip, I was again pregnant, the women's event, and she started off with this story. She said she was at Davos at the World Economic Forum one year, and she's from New York, so she's in Switzerland at Davos, and her husband who's a lovely man, at home with they have twin daughters. There was a snow day in New York, And she's like, I woke up, you know, I'm in Davos, I'm about to sit down with who knows who, you know, and she receives a phone call from her husband saying, it's snow day, what do I do with the children? And of course she was like, well, you know, call these moms, arrange these play dates, blah, blah, blah. And when I was listening to it before having, you know, going into this identity that was almost coming, I was like, oh my God, that sounds like torture. And of course, now this is our everyday life, right? So the identities are always overlapping, and it's I think everybody has a different way of dealing with this, and not only the mom and the work identity, but many other things are at place at the same time. So for you guys, for you ladies, how does this work, and how do you deal with it? Who wants to start? Shall we start with you again?
Sure, we can start. You know, I just wanted to be sure of our, you know, connection. Both of you can hear us. Perfect. Okay. You know, I think it's the choice of the corporates and, you know, beyond the establishments, each and every one. So they reveal the opportunity of enjoying that, you know, multicolor woman, or, you know, multicolor human beings, or will they try to depress and, you know, just meet with just one type of person in their workplace? So that's a, you know, crossroad for companies. What I have learned from, you know, being a mom, being a friend, being a daughter, you know, I'm trying to blend all of them and, you know, create the new version of Idil. This is the journey that you have to run. If not, if you run such a monophasic life, I think that in the, you know, next upcoming times, you will not be able to succeed, because we will be running some parallel careers. We'll see this, I think, within a few years. We will not be belonging to, you know, one and only career, so that we will diversify within ourselves, so that embracing it is crucial. And, you know, it's a, I think, call for action for the corporates and the startups too. You know, how many faces of our employees will we be meeting? And, you know, how we will embed their colorful, you know, inputs into our new journey. That's the question, I think.
I'm laughing because the other day I was telling my husband that the biggest luxury that men have that they don't realize is that they can leave all of their identities at the door, and when they walk into work, they're only alone with their work identity. And at the time, that seemed to me as a luxury because I guess I was overwhelmed. But I think what you're saying now is also extremely valuable, that we're only full when we can bring all of those identities together.
Yes.
And don't feel the pressure of having to separate them
Yes.
in order to succeed at home or at work, right? Banu, do you want to keep us going?
Yeah, sure. I actually find this word a bit confusing, right? Identity, when you actually look at the Latin root, means like the same, right? It means kind of state of being the same. But when we actually lose identity in colloquial language, it's about being individual. Like, what do you stand for as an individual? And as we kind of ask the question, okay, what mother identity, wife identity? I actually don't like that definition, because it's really about being unique, right? Like, I don't think people should have a set identity, whether from a corporate context or in family context, or frankly, even in a relationship context. And I think one of the challenges that women face is that sometimes you're kind of pushed into an identity to belong into a certain group. And it's really about kind of the need not to be more like a man or have a certain identity. I think true empowerment of, frankly, everyone, including women, comes from being confident in who you are without trying to kind of fit into a specific identity. So it's more about kind of, it's not so much like my investor identity or wife identity, but it's really about kind of that diversity of being corporates or those kind of social settings, enabling women to be able to express themselves in whatever identity they feel like they're comfortable in, right? And I think that's kind of where true identity or kind of true empowerment really comes through.
Banu just gave my answer, but I can just add to that, if that's okay.
Sure.
So we were having this discussion yesterday about Netflix promoting the queer community, the gay community. And so this discussion of identity came up. And as exactly Vana has stated, I was saying that we should actually get rid of these categories that we put ourselves into. Because when we identify ourselves as woman only, then the expectations from you are given from, you know, traditions or years of understanding. The same goes with gays or like whatever the sexual preferences people have. So by getting rid of these categories, you can be a mother, you can be an investor, you can be a daughter at the same time, but you can be a boss as well. So it is really up to you how you want to present yourself and how you want to define yourself. And from from the example you just gave, it is expected that women take care of the son only. But the other day, I told my husband, I was like, why don't you sleep him? And he managed and he loved it. And now I can actually rely on him to sleep him, to put him into bed. But had I not ever tried this, I would not know that he was capable of that. And I would probably take that responsibility to myself. And I would probably try to do this all by myself. So it is also our duty to educate our husbands, our dads, our bosses, our colleagues, whoever it may be, that this is not only on us, but it is a duty that needs to be shared.
I want to talk about a little bit about the biases we face. And obviously, in this day and age, most colleagues, most men, women we interact with in the workplace or elsewhere, they don't mean to be discriminatory. If we ask them the questions, they will all answer correctly in terms of what women's place should be in the workplace, etc. Yet there's subtle things that happen that are not intentional at all, that still result in basically discrimination. So I want to have, I'm going to cite one research, which I'm fascinated by this one. This was in HBR a couple years ago. So a research team observed question and answer interactions between VCs and founders. So first meeting between a VC and a founder, they listened to the questions and then they did some linguistic analysis. And mind you, the VCs were both female and male, so not just male VCs, mixed VC community and founders. So they found that VCs, so first of all, the males ended up raising 5 times more money, which of course is not surprising to us. The VCs tended to ask males. So even if it was the question was getting at the same thing, the way it was worded was when it was asked to males, it was worded as potential for gains. And when it was asked to females, it was worded as potential for losses. So when it was asked to males, it was about hopes and achievements and advancement and ideals. And when it was asked to females, it was about safety, responsibility, security, and vigilance. So for example, to males, it was about how do you monetize this? Let's talk about the future. For females, it was how long will it take you to break even? Or to males, is your target market growing? So let's talk about the potential of this venture. To females, is it a defensible business? What happens when others come into the space? So, and unfortunately, it turns out people, so if the founders end up mirroring the question. So if you're asked a question that's more limiting, you answer in a limiting way. So what this research actually, that the conclusion to the founders was take control, and even if the question to you is asked in a limiting way, take control of the narrative and answer in a way that's aspirational. So don't fall into the trap of mirroring the question that you're asked. So I'm fascinated by this research. If anyone has
That's
seen me
that's
speak before,
exactly what
I
I was
always
saying.
cite this. But do you also have examples of how you see this in the workplace? Sometimes we talk about mansplaining.
Yeah.
Sometimes we talk about, women tend to be emotional and men tend to be strategic or whatever. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, always defined with attached feelings. Aslı. I think it was a few years ago. I was leading a project based on the, gender-driven bias on, hiring of candidates, and we developed some alternative CVs with, different ethnic backgrounds and cultural backgrounds to see the, implications of decision processes. So the things that we met were, incredible. So the, the companies that we trusted, their windows were telling us that they were gender sensitive, they were caring about diversity, inclusion, but the results, what's happening on the ground, was not about in line with the study, what they were saying. So they weren't walking the talk. That's crucial. I think there are lots of mottos, there are lots of learnings, and it's like a PR campaign for many of the institutions. But these bias are there, and some are conscious and some are unconscious. We have to deal with both of them. Yeah, you mentioned about mansplaining and the language that we use, and there are some sentences. Sometimes they do not, smell like a discrimination sentence or gender-focused sentence, but you are talking about something very business relevant, and a man comes up, says that, and can say to you that let's go back to business. We're already there, so that we don't have to go back to business. So sometimes this is what I really feel: men, affiliate themselves with business more than women, and they have, I was reading a book. Machiavelli for Women. I recommended it to Ahu. We were discussing about it. This is just like the book of Prince. So you know what the Medici family do, and how Prince deserved the seat, try to win the seat again. It's Machiavelli for women. There are some reserved seats. This is what the men are feeling, and women are trying to keep up with them to sit next to them. This is the bias, unconscious or conscious bias. This is what we are living every day. It's a part of the daily routine, I think. Anu?
Yeah, I mean, look, there obviously were, I mean, you started the conversation saying, hey guys, right? I mean, there's obviously a lot of this stuff that's so enshrined. And it's not necessarily offensive. It's just like we all need to be kind of careful. But some of the stuff becomes a bit more, offensive when, you'll be having a conversation and someone would define an incident saying, oh, he was playing like a girl or something like that. And that becomes kind of quite offensive. Another thing, I guess, that I've seen is, and I think this is where kind of, especially for women who are more senior, I think need to be a lot more conscious, is to really kind of protect, because there's kind of the woman-male element, but there's also kind of seniority and hierarchy element. So one of the things that we spend a lot of time is making sure, like, especially some of the junior people in your organization, they feel like they're protected by the senior woman in those circumstances, because they themselves maybe, let's say, not necessarily comfortable calling something out, but if they actually see someone more senior do that, then the next time it's easier for them, right? And I'll give you kind of a specific example. I was actually, in a meeting, and this guy would just not talk to my face. Like, he would not look at he would not eye to eye, right? And he was always kind of looking at another guy, even though kind of I was the leader in the room. And I actually called it out. I'm like, you're looking at his eye, not my eye. And then he was quite embarrassed about it. And then he kind of like said to me, like, so it's more about kind of calling it out when you see it, or not just for you, but also for the other people that you work with. So you're kind of seen as kind of protecting them in a way. So that's at least something that, like, I try to do, because it's easier for let's say, people in a, let's say, more senior position to do that than perhaps some of the others who don't feel that safe.
It's so right. I mean, shall I continue from here?
Yes,
I'll
please.
start- Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
So as you know, I work at infrastructure as for Bana as well, and it's very male dominant. And so they tend to laugh out at jokes which are not necessarily funny to us. But then you have to, they usually end up, well, you woman, you know, you do that. And at that point, instead of not answering, you gotta own up to your femininity and you say, yes, we do. Like, why not? And then the opposite party, then instead of, you know, letting it go, they tend to think about what they just said. So it is actually important to point it out and owning up to your capabilities and yourself, rather than trying to suit or fit the environment.
Our takeaway for the women in leadership positions is that we have to create this environment for more junior people going into the workforce who may not, of course, have the same, they may not feel safe and secure enough to call out these behaviors. So I think that a lot of responsibility falls upon us. So my next questions, let's talk about, so we talked about how we want to be seen as a whole with from our identity, and lots of people were saying, you know, like thanks to the pandemic, like we've, you know, the kids are everywhere, and it's the bright side has always been, oh well, look, everybody's so understanding when you're the meeting is, you know, divided by the children crying or something. But the reality was a little different, I think, for women during the pandemic. So what do you think, how do you think the pandemic affected this agenda for gender empowerment and advancement? Indeed.
Again, I will refer to a new article that I read at New York Times. It was telling that, you know, pregnancy period for women is always challenging. Everybody has the right in the workplace to ask and, you know, even touch your body, you know, as a cultural effect of love and, you know, care. But, you know, the study showed that women ran their pregnancies better and, you know, in a more comfortable way during the C19 period, because they weren't asked questions. They were mostly working away remotely, and, you know, they could have a peaceful, you know, pregnancy period. The results of the questionnaire executed were showing us that. But, you know, I think we have lived, you know, aids of new world. We have described them, how we are going to adapt ourselves to them. I think we are trying to find our ways in the, you know, new design of the world. So nothing is written on stone. We enjoyed some part of it. We really had difficulties on some part of it. I think, again, we should show real empathy and sympathy to ourselves on dealing with it. So the good side and the bad side. The mirror has two sides now for us.
Exactly. Banu, how was it for you?
Pretty hectic, I would say. I was actually pregnant at the initial lockdowns. And as you said, I think it was actually quite helpful because I was pregnant with twins. If I was actually at work, I would need to travel a lot more. It probably would have been a lot more stressful. You still kind of sit down in the office, etc. So it was definitely easy. But I think the second phase of the lockdowns was very trying for me, but frankly I think for all women, because I think we all know that when mom is in the house, it's all about the mom, right? Like no one goes like knocking on the dad's door when he's in a Zoom call. Like, you know, it's usually the mothers who have to kind of deal with them, whether it's kind of them helping them in their kind of studies or there's a lot more attachment. So definitely I think was emotionally a lot more trying for old women, because you literally have, depending on your age, either crying or banging on your door, and it's tougher to kind of draw that line between work and family when you're in the house, because it's all default to you. And I think emotionally that's been very tiring for everyone, irrespective of how resilient they are. So I think it actually took a deeper toll on a woman. but there has been positive aspects as well, right? It, in a way, democratized your access. I think one of the things that we were joking internally in our firm is, like, you know, I think some of these, let's say, things that really kept being a disadvantage for women kind of vanished overnight, in terms of, hey, knocking on your boss's door, enjoying your whatever golf time or drinks or whatever. It was, everyone was on Zoom. It didn't matter whether you shared common interests or you're man or female. So in a way, that actually was a lot more democratizing. But net, if I had to kind of score it was negative for women rather than positive, at least for me.
How was it for you?
Yeah, so I was pregnant as well. So I basically am echoing Banu yet again, because everyone was more understanding that I was pregnant. Usually, maybe if I was at the workplace itself, they wouldn't be as generous with their approaches, but it was a lot easier because I didn't have to travel and I didn't have to just run around, and which led me to think that people can be understanding if they wanted to, and if we allowed them to. So asking for help or asking for time or asking for space is not our fault, and it shouldn't be considered as such. So again, I was with this improvement of understanding, we all have to act, and we all have to at least try. And I think everyone was very understanding during COVID, but if we do not continue with this, then everything will go back to what it was.
Last question, and we can take questions from the audience. What makes you hopeful and excited about the future in terms of gender movement? Idil.
New generation. I think they are vocal and they know how to protect their rights better than us. I, carry hope for the, next generation.
Banu, what makes you hopeful and excited?
Yeah, look, I'll give a less emotional and more kind of financial approach to it, given my job. I mean, this was always in the agenda, but it's one thing to be kind of wishy-washy about something and say, hey, we want to do it because it's nice to have, versus now I think there's a real recognition that it actually makes economic sense. And that's always a very important catalyst, right? I think that's given kind of what Arya is trying to do, I guess why Isha is kind of backing that. Similarly in Goldman, why this is such a huge agenda item. I think people have recognized, and it's actually been, there's a lot of research done and data proven around it, like having more women in the workforce, having more women founders, having more women on board, bringing that diversity does actually yield to better economic outcomes. And when you're trying to push an agenda, having a financial reason to do that always helps, right? And when you kind of look at least kind of when I kind of look at the discussions with various LPs, and we're talking about like some of the largest LPs that in the world, this is a requirement for them to put money in a fund, right? Like, or for example, Goldman is not IPOing companies unless there are women on the board, right? There's actually like some specific things that are taking that's driving this momentum, which I think is definitely here to stay.
Great. Pelin?
Yes.
It's the same as my first question's answer. I would say getting rid of the category.
We couldn't hear you well, Pelin. You were referring to your first question, Aslı's first
Yes,
question?
and getting rid of the categories would be my...
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. It will work.
Great.
Yeah.
And I guess what makes me excited, I'm always hopeful. So even in the most dire situations, the conversation has changed for sure. I can both from I sit with the entrepreneurs and with the investors, and it used to be that when a woman entrepreneur came into the room, the first thing that the investors asked each other, and you could see this in their eyes, was, does she have what it takes? Is this a lifestyle entrepreneur? From an investor's point of view, that's the biggest diss you can make to an entrepreneur. Is this a lifestyle entrepreneur? There's nothing wrong with being a lifestyle entrepreneur, but of course you can't get funded as a lifestyle entrepreneur. And it didn't matter if the founder said everything right and did everything right. It was always, there was a stigma attached. And I think the investing community actually came into its understanding way through the corporate community. Like, I think the Boys Club of investing was because they, you know, it's a less scrutinized world, and I'm seeing that changing. Obviously, we have at Endeavor, again, one of the things that you will hear us talk about the most is role models. So we now, I mean, we've always had, but every day now we're adding to female role models, and it's for a girl. So now we're sitting in front of you as four very privileged women. Let's face this, you know, like I don't think none of us can talk about a story about, you know, how against all odds we became successful or anything like that. So we have an obligation to girls everywhere, and the biggest gift, one of the biggest gifts we can give them, is for them to have role models that they can identify with, so that they can visualize a future where they can actually change their surroundings and their conditions, and along with, of course, the access to education, finances when it comes to it. The reality is we have a long way to go, but I think that this room and many rooms like this today are talking about the same things, and I'm definitely, this is my 43rd March 8th, and you know, probably 25th since I started working, and every year the conversation gets deeper and deeper and less PRA. So thank you for
Awesome. Many thanks. Just a minor addition. We are always discussing that window of opportunity for Turkey is closed. If you look at the demographic, you know, with the demographic sense, I see technology as a catalyst, you know, in the future too. So that we were discussing with Philin that, you know, gender neutrality will come with the help of technology. That will be a catalyst. And, you know, upward mobility. Technology will create opportunities. You know, what is upward mobility? Different income levels. You can travel, you know, from a low income level to a, you know, upper stage with the help of technology. And, you know, you have lots of avenues to succeed. It wasn't like that a few years ago. So that we are really, really taking quick steps in that sense. This makes us hopeful for the whole society too.
Great. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Everybody wants the happy hour. And I don't blame you.
Some online questions.
Are there online questions?
Yes, yes. From the online team. Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Yes.
We have a couple of questions actually. Biraz daha. What are the challenges with being a successful mother and good mother?
What are the challenges?
Being a successful mother.
With being a successful mother and a good mother.
Successful mother is a good mother.
I mean, so I have a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old. I think I have the oldest children and the most
Experienced one.
I mean,
among us.
for better or worse. And I have a very strong mother. She's a surgeon. She's worked all my life. She was in night shifts when I was younger. She never complained about being a woman. On the contrary, I mean, it was a very different time. And she is my biggest role model, because I found that when I was younger, when I saw that she was fulfilled at work, and you could tell, and obviously being a doctor is a very different thing, but she was challenged, she was fed so much at work that I think it just made her a better mother. And that was my experience. So I have never once felt guilt
Yes.
to my children for missing something or not being, my daughter had a test yesterday. I forgot about it. She went to school. It happens, and
Okay.
most of the mothers in her classroom didn't forget about it, but it happens.
Yeah.
And but our daughters are friends. And my daughter last night said, my 6-year-old and her 6-year-old, she said, you know how you and Idil are going to be on a commercial? I said, yes, okay, kind of. Can we come and watch? And I said, not tomorrow, but I promise you, soon we will make you watch. Like, I think that's how you become a good mother.
Yeah, and Derin wrote her key remarks, wanted me to print them, wanted to be here today. So they are learning to be on the platforms. Banu, do you have additions?
Banu, Pelin, we lost Pelin.
Yeah, I mean, one comment I would make is traditional, I think changes a lot, right? For a lot of people, like they'll say, oh, you need to be with your kid all the time. Like, I don't have time to go to like all the birthday parties. I don't have time to do a lot of stuff. I'm traveling like half the week, but I have my own definition of good. Okay, so one of the things that I would say is like, don't feel upset if they're, clearly, especially working women, and frankly, even more so like entrepreneurs, you will need to sacrifice time, okay? Let's be honest about it. The question is like, it's more about quality time with your kids, not just aggregate time, and not kind of, upsetting yourself because you're benchmarking yourself to other mothers. It's not about other people, it's about your relationship with your kids, and as long as that's good, then I think that's like the biggest challenge, right? Like not caring about what other people do and just focusing on your own relationship with your kid.
Also, with your permission, I want to give credit to Arya here too, because when we are collaborating and when we are together, friends, our children are learning to collaborate and do something together too. That's again lead by example case for them too. So my very humble suggestion to all of us is that involve new people in your lives so that populate these examples around you so that your children can learn from society, from the ecosystem that you are in, and they are learning by seeing, no other way.
I remember also when my older child was, I don't know, old enough to ask me, why do you have to leave every morning? Why do you have to go to work, And the first time I was running out the door and I was like, to pay for your school or something, and I left, and then it dawned on me, I was like, no, that's not why I work. So the next morning I'm like, okay, what I said to you yesterday, but I was like, no, because it's we're creating something, we're adding value, we're doing this, that. I think it's very important for them to understand why this work means to you. Of course, now not everybody is lucky to have a job that makes them feel the way our jobs make us feel. I think that's also, there's lots of, this is not to discount the very hard lives of working women who, if they had appropriate it's the access to child, like everything, there's so much broken about this system, obviously. But I think for professional women who are lucky to find jobs that can add to their growth, this is, I feel very sad when I see my friends drop out of the workforce.
Yes.
But yeah, it's definitely possible.
We'll create more opportunities. No one will be left behind. This is a rule.
Okay, we have one more, and it is more general. They are asking your suggestions and advice for young women who are just starting their careers.
Banu, do you want to take this one first? Young women who are just starting their careers, what advice do you have for them?
Tough one. I mean, look, especially for people who are just starting their career, whether they're man or woman, whatever you do, do it well, right? Because that's the foundation of everything. It's not about talking a lot. It's not about being a woman. It's about doing your job well so you can actually build on that. I mean, that's probably would be my initial reaction.
My first job was in consulting, and when we started, one of the partners had everybody, you know, the new people. And one of the things she said, exactly what Banu said, she was like, many times you will just be in the room to take notes. Just make sure you take the best notes you can ever take. And believe me, it's going to have an impact. You know, whatever you do it with care and with lots of attention, and just do the best you can every single time, even if it's because there will be times when it's, especially at the beginning of your career, you question, why am I doing this, you know? And it happened to all of us, right? And I think it's important to realize that, again, whatever you do the best you can.
Yeah.
Maybe?
I think choose a mentor, someone to ask, someone to get advice from. A genuine and authentic advice is very valuable. You will feel that you are gonna fail. You will fail. There's no problem with it. But you know, you need friends, mentors, family, who you call them, to take your hand and take you back to the journey. Have a mentor and have friends around you. Discuss openly. Be vocal.
Exactly. Thank you. No more questions. Perfect.
Yeah.
So on to the happy hour, I think. Yes, thank you very much, Ahu, Idil, for hosting us, and our friends at İşbank.
Thank you, Banu.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Banu.